Yeah, welcome to Community Hotline for the community, by the community. I'm your host, Mr. Bob Thang, and today we got Mr. Johnny J. Jones in the house.
What's going on? Glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Man, where to begin? I'm just a regular dude. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. Been a few places. I done lived in DC. I lived in North Carolina, Oakland, California, and back home in New Orleans. Always been a creator. Whether that was one of my claim to fames in life, it was I started a school newspaper when I was in the fifth grade. But just always been a creator, always been a writer. Eventually became a photographer. I've done some video work. I've worked on some amazing film projects. And so my main thing now is I've kind of stepped back, just been focusing on my health in the last couple of years. But even with that, I've kind of found my focus in just working with people that I'm close to or that I've become close to, and helping them use their gifts and apply their passions to further push their career paths, their passions, things like that. So that's been my focus the last few years, and yeah, I feel like I'm a student of life. Like I enjoy living. I enjoy the finding the ease of living. Like I feel like that's been the journey I've been on for the past year or so. Like where most of us we're running, or we get overburdened. I feel like we have to do so much and do all these different things. But I'm learning to actually step back and do less. But in doing less, I'm enjoying more of life. So I mean that's been really cool. It's been really cool.
I like that. I like this whole path. Could you elaborate a little bit more on doing less?
Oh, doing less. As I said, I'm a creator, and with that, that's been my profession. And over the years, I would get caught up in feeling like you have to maintain the perception of like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm so busy. I'm doing this, and you end up just doing projects like it's like twofold. Either you're just doing things to be doing things, or the bridge that I've really gotten burned on is doing things like, oh well, it's not really what I want to do, but it pays me well, and it ends up being the most draining, just most awful projects that I take on like every time. And so with that now, I've just been stepping back and really locking in on doing things that I really am passionate about. Also, while recognizing the value that I bring to a project, so okay, that makes me price the work that I do a whole lot better. So okay, it's something that I love, I enjoy doing, I want to work on, but also I'm being compensated properly for it. So as far as number of projects, is not nearly as many as I was doing maybe 5 years ago. But for me, for sure, it's definitely far more impactful work. And again, it is also giving me time back for myself. Definitely time to, I mean, last year or so I've been big on working out for sure. But then also, just meditation, mentally checking in with myself, and keeping myself far more centered, or just at the least taking the time to check in on myself, make sure I'm in a good place. And so that's what I feel like the doing less, but is giving me more of my life back. Has been is like really what I've been locked in on for the past year or so.
I love that. I love that. Okay, well, let's move on to the first topic of the day, which is money.
Oh
Tell
yeah.
us what was the first job you ever had that you got paid for?
Oh man, first job I ever.
Ever.
Oh man. So starting a school newspaper, it got paid for it, but we gave the money to the school. So I didn't get to keep that money myself. But when I was 12, I actually started cutting yards, doing yard work. And my mom would on Saturday morning, she put me in the car, go drop me off in different neighborhoods, and I would literally just go door to door asking people to cut their grass. And at the time, I'm thinking, it literally just hit me right now. I'm thinking, back then I'm like, oh man, I'm the man. Like these kids, these folks love me to the yard work I'm doing. But now in this moment, I realize like, man, they probably just saw a little kid, out here trying to make some money and felt sorry for him or whatever. But uh, I mean, luckily, I didn't process it as such, and so I mean, I took great pride in the work that I did, and definitely had a positive attitude about it. Was grateful for everybody that did say yes. I mean, it's, you kid going knock on a stranger's door, and you're leaving with $20. Like that was pretty impactful. And then just as far as like for my family, it definitely helped us at the time. I was single parent home, so it definitely felt good to be able to help out. Like I say, the whole theme of this is ease. Help add some ease into my home life at the time. And I feel like that really just kind of laid the foundation for, um, I guess, having the value of working hard and at the same time, like understanding the value of it. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna charge $20 versus like $5 just so to say, yeah, like, nah, let me actually make sure it's worthwhile at the same time too. So that really kind of laid the foundation for me, like I said, 12 years old.
$20 a house, 10 houses. Hey,
Hey man, I was rocking, man. I was rocking. Got to keep a few bucks in my own pocket. Go buy me some shoes. I was doing all right. I was doing all right.
I like that. What is what would you say? What is money?
Whoo, man, what is money? You, and this sounds cliche to say, but I feel like money is what you make it. You know, if you allow money to be your master, that's your motivation. That's what it's going to become. I feel like um, for my wife and I, money is money is the thing that gets us as close to freedom as possible, and that's um, using it to buy a lot of our time back. I feel like that's one of the main things that we use it for. Um, and then too, it also, I mean, we use it as a tool to support community. They're very supportive of friends and different things of that nature. Um, so, I feel like we use it as a tool, as a support system for community. And I think that's always a thing, trying to keep it in the positive, keep money as a positive thing for us. Um, where even with that, keeping our expenses low. So again, we're not we're steadily moving away from the feeling of I have to get up today and go and work, because money is my master. And I need money. I need all of this money to do these different things. Like, well, I got a little, I want to get a little breathing room, a little cushion out. It starts to feel good when you get, I guess, especially for me as an entrepreneur, being able to say no to project. And I feel like that's money. That's what money allows me, the freedom to do that, by having enough, but then also not having a need for more, and doing, just having it be something that's tying me down to a lifestyle that is not adding ease into my life.
And that I understand that. So you talk about how you're married. Just for the kids who are in high school. What is there a what would you say is the top two differences between spending money on like your girlfriend versus spending money on your wife? Like, is there a difference? Is there a difference to think about it?
Look, it's not as different for me because my girlfriend, my girlfriend, my wife was my high school girlfriend. Um, like we dated our senior year. We went off to college. We dated most of our time in college, and then we got married. So, and the position that I held her in at the time as a 17-year-old kid, is still for me, and just also for who she was. Like, it's not that much different than what I hold her at 20 some years later. Um, and I don't think that's the norm, but that was my standard. And I guess on the other side of that, that was her standard too, of just um carrying herself in a certain way, having certain expectations, and me being wanting to be a person like, man, I'm like, it's like once you decide that you're my girlfriend, I want you to feel protected. I want you to feel loved, spoiled, whatever. And then I think it was key, she's not a person that would take advantage of it, and vice versa. So it's always been that balancing act. So I think with anybody, like, you hope to have or find someone that is that type of ideal situation. So it never is a feeling of like, oh, I've gotta wine and dine her all the time, or else she's gonna leave me. And I think it's at a situation now where it's great, but at the same time, I think we'd find a way if if it wasn't the most ideal financial situation. And that's just because we're two people that have love at the core of our relationship. I mean, I think all the time, like, I'm just thankful that, like, money has never been um a cause of conflict amongst us. And again, I feel like that's something that's not the standard of what you hear of most relationships. And so it's definitely something that I appreciate and I don't take for granted. So, always respectful, and when it comes to money, and at the same time, it's like I wouldn't fix my face to be like, no, I ain't giving you all, like, mine is yours, yours is mine. So I mean, it's a fortunate situation to be in.
Wise man, wise man. What would you say? For kids in high school, I know you started, hustling, cutting the grass when you were young. What about for the kids in high school who want to make, a few quick $100? What in the next, I don't know, 3 months, 90 days? What would you say? Like, how do they start?
It's so many different ways now. There's so you know, like I say,
Easiest way for you. Or let's start with the lawn. What happened? You just got like some equipment. And you just started knocking on doors. Or
oh, I just had a lawnmower. So we had a lawnmower that I used to cut my own grass at my house. I literally just put it in the back of my mom's car. And like I say, she would just drive me in neighborhoods, maybe 10 minutes away from where we stayed, drop me off. I think she would sit at the corner and I would just go down the block, door to door, knocking. And that's the thing now, compared to, kids, like, they can build a top tier, professional business with flyers where they don't have to go knock door to door. If they're in the neighborhood, their own neighborhood, they have, like, what's the, like, the neighborhood community.
the
I think it's
HOA.
neighbor or something like that. But yeah, like, different means of getting the word out. Give it to their parents and share with their friends. Like, it didn't have to be lawn care work. I mean, same with the babysitting, or you have different other talents, different things that you can create. There's so many ways to get it in front of people immediately, compared to, like I say, when back then it was either I'm going door to door, or I may find a printer and I can hang them up on a light pole and hope that it's, survives a day or two and some people can see it. So the main thing I say is, I mean, as far as, like, jobs, I mean, it's endless, but definitely as far as getting in front of people for those, to find these opportunities. I mean, they have it. If they have a phone, it's right there. It's right there in front of them. You should finally use it accordingly, and in a safe way too. Being kids, but the access, it's endless. It's endless.
Just get out there and put your name out there, put your 2 feet out there, and get to work.
Oh
Basically,
yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
let's move on to the second topic of the day, which is education.
Oh yeah.
Tell us, who were you in high school?
Who was I in high school? I wouldn't say I was a nerd, but I was I was I was in school for school. I'll definitely say that.
What year did you graduate high school?
I graduated in '99, so I'm up there. But yeah, my mom was very big on education and that being the gateway to whatever we wanted to do in life. Like we were those kids who our mom had us in the library every summer. Like we were always reading. One of my favorite moments in school was I won the school spelling bee in the sixth grade, and I beat my sister who was in the eighth grade. And that was just like I was like, like man, that's like a real testament to my mom. Like man, like both her kids, the final two. And my sister was very gracious about losing to me too. So I was there. And as far as high school, again, like at that point, education was it. Handle my business first as far as schoolwork, and then everything else came second. But luckily, I was able to make time for extracurriculars. I mean, I had a really good time in high school, but it was definitely no question that taking care of business, which was the business of school, was number one for me. And then, and it seemed like the more I was focused, the more things kind of lined up that I wanted to do. And one of those things was I decided my junior year or the summer between my junior and senior year, I knew I wanted to go to Howard University. And it literally just lined up during my senior year for me to not only go, but I ended up receiving a scholarship to go there. And you look at something like that, oh man, that's cool. But realistically, that was just it was all part of the journey. It was all the work that I put in. Like that wouldn't have been possible if I didn't maintain good grades and do the extracurricular things, the volunteering, the school newspapers, all of those things. It culminated with that moment. Um, and so that's something that even to this day I still hold on to that education, just always learning. I call myself a lifelong student. Like there's always something to learn, always someone to learn from, and that's how I moved in high school. Realistically, that's how I moved for as long as I can remember. Um,
I have a, I have a, I have an older cousin who also graduated in '98,
mhm.
and I remember back then high school was a little bit different than how high school is now. Um, I feel like it was a little bit more real.
You feel
You
like high school now is a bit more real?
know, high school back then was a little bit more real.
Oh,
Well, definitely a little bit more real. I mean,
yeah.
did you ever experience like peer pressure of trying to like fit in, or were you just really just in your own lane, just super focused?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have the peer pressure stories. Um, I think I was fortunate. I had a sister that was a couple years older than me. And she was, I would say, she was cool enough. she was cool enough. So I'm sure off the strength of her, like I just avoided a lot of bullying or whatever.
Mm,
um, that allowed me to just do my own thing. And even aside from that, again, I feel like in looking back at the time, I didn't see it, but as I look at it, just as I've been looking at it like lately, I do realize that I've always been kind of a leader, and it's like I've been a leader because I really just was like doing my own thing, like I was just on my own path. But you look back and you see, oh, like man, this person came behind, like you see people that align with you. Um, but yeah, peer pressure was never really, it wasn't really my thing. Like my mom, she kind of raised us to be individuals because she was an individual. She moved her own way. So a lot of things that we did at home were kind of unorthodox. So it was.
Can you elaborate on that?
Um, I think the easiest thing to say, and I guess that maybe goes into peer pressure, is we never, without saying, a lot of these things we have words to say what they are now. Like we can say, oh, we guard our energy and things like that. We didn't have words. We didn't have these phrases in the '90s or the late '80s. But those were the things that we were doing at home. Where as far as, I mean, a lot of that stuff starts within your family. Like, okay, well, this family member or this pocket of the family, the energy's off. It's like you go around, they don't make me feel good. And I'm not gonna linger. Like, you know what? This Christmas, we're gonna go this way. And that was home life for us. Like, some of our greatest times were the times where we, like say, everyone's going this way, we went that way.
Mm,
And that was just, if I'm living this way at home, this is my way of living. So I went to school with that mentality, that mindset. And yeah, man, that was the thing. Like, that helped a whole lot, of and with the family aspect. I think so many people, they look at how their family moves and they just blindly follow. And so again, when they go to school, it's that same thing. Oh well, this people, if everyone else is doing this, must be the thing to do. But at home, we always had that kind of individual way of thinking, or at the least thinking about, why am I doing this? Does this make sense? So that always made, that was what I carried when I was at school. Like, let me think about this before, before I just get rowdy and whatever.
I like that. That's a very good upbringing. What would you say are two defining moments in your life, and how did they impact you?
Man, this is one of those questions. I should have got the email for this one before asking this live. Goodness gracious. Two impactful moments. Two impactful moments. Wow.
Well, two defining moments, and how
Two
did they impact
defining moments. Two defining moments. Man, two defining moments. I would say, one I have to say is not a couple years ago, like right after we moved back home, uh, in December of 2020, I got really sick. Um, I actually caught COVID, and the COVID wasn't that bad, but I actually have type 2 diabetes, and so that COVID kind of spurred ketoacidosis, which like threw my whole body out of whack. I ended up in the hospital, and so I've got like 6 days in the hospital to just really get all the things that were on my plate off my plate by force at this point. But that was kind of it was like a much needed break. I remember, I'm laying in there and I felt at peace, as I felt like physically I felt empty, but like mentally it's like, man, I'm at peace because I literally cannot do anything. But I feel like that was a defining moment for me, because that was the time where I had to deal with a lot of different things that was going on. I had a number of deaths from close family members, and I was just, I never took time to process it. Wasn't taking care of myself health wise, um, and everything was floundering. Everything in my life was floundering. So on the other side of that is, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I gotta bounce back, I gotta do this to get back on my feet. I decided that, with the things that I mentioned at the top of this conversation, um, that I was going to implement ease into my life. Get away from just the running and, feel like I have to do this or be, it's like, it's literally about to put me in the dirt, you know. And so, and I mean, I could say a year and some change later, I've been implementing all of that stuff. When I left the hospital, I was on a few medications, things like that, off of medication, work out pretty much every day, eat a whole lot better, cut sugar out of my diet, and then on top of that, daily meditation, reading the Bible every day. That's the thing for me. But again, just doing the work of centering myself. I know, and in that moment, I had to realize I can't I can't be anything to anybody else if I'm not everything to myself first. And so that's been like a big thing of, it was a defining moment for me because that determined how I plan to live the rest of my life from there on. So um
That'll do it for you. The
yeah,
hospital.
so that was that one. The other, man, that's a defining moment beyond that. Um hmm. I would say I would probably say, I mean, again, it's cliche, but getting married, because that was the most important and impactful relationship I committed to in all my life. Like luckily it was a marriage, but that could be anything. But being able to partner with somebody, and in May it'll be 19 years. We got married at 21 years old, well, 21, 22. Um, but almost 20 years later, looking, and I can see, um, the benefits of that relationship, that partnership. Um, and that relationship has also served as the basis for almost all relationships I have in my life. The only difference is I lay in the bed with this person, but most relationships in my life, they are full of love and respect and um ebb and flow. Some days, you're pulling more than I am, but the other days it's vice versa. Um and so yeah, I mean, I feel like that relationship is definitely served as the basis for most of the relationships, almost all of the relationships that I maintain in my life. Um and I think I'm proud of myself for being able to make such an impactful decision, at such a young age. And like I say, my wife, she had to make the same decision too. So, I'm grateful that she did, but definitely, like, and again, as I get older and I see other relationships and how partnering wrong can go the wrong way, I'm just very grateful that, it is a partnership that has been beneficial and fruitful. So,
Strong foundations. I
oh
like it. Moving on to the last topic of the day, which is love. Nice transition.
yeah.
Tell us, what is love?
What is love? Love is life. Love is what you make it. It's the basis of everything. To me, love is the motivation. Um, it's what gets us up. Love is very big in my life. Um, yeah, I mean, it means a lot to me when I think of love. And I think of love that's been given to me. And again, I feel like as a society, we're learning how to use words better. Um, and we're getting a sense of being able to make things make better sense than when I was younger. But I think of all the different people in my life, random people who have gone out of their way to be there for me in some form or another. And that's what I think of when I think of love. It's like, especially when, these are people that didn't have to do anything for me. And they, extended their love to be of support to me. Um, so that's definitely the thing that I keep in mind is that what I try to give to this world in the same way. Like, I mean, I've been immensely blessed. I feel like all blessings come through God, but they come through people. Come from God, but they come through people. Um, and I mean, I've had some amazing people. I have some amazing people in my life. And I've had some that are no longer here, but most of those relationships have been led by love. Um, if that's the center of most relationships, that's the center of what we do with it, as far as not just people relationships, but as far as like the things that we create. Like this is a project of love, so that being the basis, like you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
Absolutely. I talk to a lot of kids in high school who they also come from single family households. And then it seems to me like, they hold on to a lot of anger, like, oh, why isn't my dad in the family? Like, what's your relationship with your dad like now? Or what can you say to like the kids, like how do they have a better relationship with one parent that's not there? Sometimes they
Yeah,
blame themselves, right?
yeah. Well, my dad, he actually just passed last year, November, like right before, or no, June 2020. So a year, almost 2 years now. But fortunately, um, we we developed a really great relationship later years. Um, and the one thing that helps with our parents, the one thing that helps with people in general is, so I don't remember who told me, but they said no matter what, most people are doing what they consider to be their best. That's however they're choosing to live their lives. And that allowed me to let go of anger, resentment that I had, not necessarily towards my dad, but towards some other family members. Um, just realizing that they are human, like we're all flawed in our own way. Um, but and with the other side of that too is, sometimes you have to give people space that it just doesn't align. Like if you know they're not able to be what you want them to be, that for some reason they just can't show up. Like you just, I mean, it's easy to say, oh well, you just have to, but that's what's helped me is eliminating expectations. Only expectations that I can have are the ones that I put on myself. Everyone else, they're living their own lives. Let them live it accordingly. If they show up in a positive, beneficial way, I feel like that's a bonus. Um, but on us, if we eliminate that expectation, there's not much room for disappointment. And there's more room for you to again pour into yourself. So that's that. Especially in these last few years, that's been a huge thing for me. Where I mean, we can have, like, oh man, why don't this person do this? Why they keep treating me this way? Da da da. It's like, you know what? Every morning, all of that energy, let me actually pour that into me. What can I do today to make myself better? How can I show up for myself better today? What can I pour into myself today that's going to make me even better tomorrow? That's going to give me a better chance of seeing tomorrow. And that's, for me, that's been the basis of, these last 15 months or so. For sure, out of necessity almost, but at the same time, mentally, that's just helped me a whole lot where I can't worry about everyone else. As much as I may want them to change, I may want them to be better. I've got to pour that into me, and that's one of those things. Of course, when you're 16, 17, that's hard to grasp. But I think this is the age. I feel like that's the age where you actually do start. You start moving in that direction of, okay, let me pour into myself a bit more. Let me lock in on me. Let me kind of be more in control of where I want to go in my life and the type of type of love I want to live within this life, um, and the way I want to contribute in this life, and that's all internal. Like it's
Okay. I like that. I like that. But focus on yourself. Pour into yourself. A lot of
oh
people
yeah,
focus
oh,
on that. What like I also talk to a lot of people, and there's always like inner fightings with their siblings. You guys, how do you deal with that? Or
yeah.
you get along with all your siblings, or what?
I love all my siblings.
For the record.
I love every one of my siblings. I'll say that. Yeah, like all the things I just said, that's definitely the things that I have to put into practice. Where again, you think, oh man, same DNA, like same parents. Why are we so different? I can't control it. I I only thing I can control is how I show up. And
you have
this
a,
is the thing that I've definitely had to focus on lately is no matter what, um eliminating those expectations, but still determining how I want to show up for them. I can still be loving. I can still find
you have
ways
a
to.
personal experience about like a fight maybe you have between one of your siblings, and how you practiced what you're talking about showing up. Just give it like a personal experience for the people listening. You don't have to say which
Hey,
one.
man. It's all so fresh, man. It's all so fresh. Goodness gracious, man. Man, yeah, it's all pretty fresh.
All right, if you want to
Man,
pass.
I just say we're all like how again we're all raised to be individuals, and so and it's six of us. It's six of us total. So, three boys, three girls, and we all have our own strong personalities. Um, and there significant age gaps as well. Me and my older sister, we're 2 years apart. But then I have a brother 7 years younger than me. And then I have two twin sisters who are 14, almost 15 years younger than me. A baby brother, 16 years or so. I mean, you're talking about these are 22, 24, 25, 33. And those are different generations. Um, and so we all have our own different way of seeing the world. Again, coupled with the recent
Personal
loss.
experience, man. Personal experience.
Yeah, I mean, so like the main thing is like our personal dealing with the recent loss of our dad. And then just all we were at that before that we were all living in different places, so having to come together to close out businesses, things like that. His business. And then we have like one of our sisters special needs. So getting on the same page about how we care for her and all that stuff. And we all have our own different viewpoint on it. But we find ways of whether it's meeting in the middle or it's like, okay, you got it, whatever till you don't, and then we step in. But the main thing is not especially for me, having to step back and understand that there's not a fix that's going to happen today or tomorrow per se. This is life. This is a journey, and it's always going to change. So remaining flexible, and I think that's the main thing with conflict amongst family, amongst anyone. Just try to remain as flexible as possible. Always have an open ear, and be willing to change your perspective if it makes sense or if it's for the best. Not just locking on the standpoint of, well, I think this, like what you think may not be the best. And so, especially for me, like, yeah, I'm one of the older, but as the listening to the younger siblings, if y'all are on the ground, y'all doing more the day to day, okay, I gotta listen. I have to hear you out. So just staying flexible, and um, yeah, I mean, being a
Perfect.
team player.
What I I want to touch on this topic of loss real quick because I think that that has a lot to do with love. I know since you said you recently lost your father recently in your adult years, I also know
Mhm.
a lot of kids who lose their parents in high school. You know,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
lost their mom or their dad in high school. Well, how what does that first 3 months, 6 months look like in terms of, like imagine you're a kid in high school and you just lost one of your parents. Like how do you deal with that? Any advice, personal experience?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be transparent and even share that my mom was actually incarcerated when I was in high school. Um, and so I mean that's not a death, but it it was, there are some comparable feelings there. Um, and it's tough on either side because you're battling accepting reality. Um, and that was definitely a situation after my dad passed where as an adult, as the oldest son, um, I felt like, oh, I've got to be strong and I've got to keep everyone together and all of that stuff. And the day after the funeral, it broke me. Like it just really broke me. And then the months after that, you feel like, oh, I'm fine. It is what it is. And then you just have moments that remind you, like, man, this person who's been in your life, for all of your life is no longer here. You can't call them. You can't reach out to them anymore. I had a moment actually. Um, I was moving home. I was moving from Oakland to New Orleans, driving cross country, and the morning I was getting into New Orleans, I stopped at a gas station, and I remembered one of my last times I was with my dad. We were traveling, coming back to New Orleans, and we stopped at a gas station. And it wasn't much. We stopped at the gas station, got coffee. I do, and I in that moment for some reason I specifically remember walking behind him, and it felt like, man, I feel like the little kid, like, oh, that's my dad. I want to be like my dad, and I'm like almost 40 years old. That's but I still had I had held my dad in that reverence, um, to the end. And so as I'm in this gas station by myself, same thing, I'm buying coffee, and I realized, like, man, like I'll never be able to have a coffee with my dad again. I'm moving home. Like that was like the tough part. Is like, man, I'm moving home and he's not here. He's never gonna be here again. So that was it. I mean, I'm in this gas station crying. It's like I'm bawling. And that was, I think that was like 5 or 6 months after he passed. And I think that was the thing. I felt like if I don't deal with it, go away, or it won't be this big deal. And I realized in that moment that I did have to deal with it. I had to find ways to deal with it, coupled with again, a few other things that I needed to deal with. And that was literally a week or two before I ended up, sick and just had no choice of having to pivot. But that was definitely the moment where I realized, okay, I can't keep forcing my way through. Um, and that was the main thing I would suggest for anyone. Don't feel that you have to be so strong um, to deal with tough times, to deal with loss on your own. Um, find resources, lean on people, talking to friends. Family is great, but then also if you have resources and access to it, finding a therapist, finding um, the grief. They have different grief counseling groups. definitely grief counselors. But talk to people, like just talk. Like you'll be surprised what comes out of you when you do open up and just share whatever's on your heart, even if it's to the point you're just sitting there just talking about old memories, you know. But it's just good to be honest with yourself versus carrying that inside or feeling like, oh, I'm gotta be tough. Like, you know, like you gotta be real with yourself first and foremost. So.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Just to kind of like a follow up question, you mentioned when you deal with a loss that when kids have trouble like just accepting that reality. When your mom was incarcerated in high school, how did you deal with that reality, or did you kind of just push it away?
I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't. I struggled with it for, for years. I can't even honestly say that I'm over it 100%. But when I had this the reset in December 2020, that was definitely a part of it. You know, and I realized like, man, that's where really, like, I've been carrying so much from that point. Especially when you consider initially sharing, you know, how much of my personal foundation my mom played a part, and then to just have it ripped away from me. That's what it felt like. Um, and I felt like at the time, okay, well, I've just gotta shoulder on, be strong, focus on me, um, and kind of push it on the back burner, even keep it kind of like a hush hush thing. And okay, yeah, that helped me in some ways, but in a lot of ways it hindered me because it was something that I was carrying until the point I just couldn't carry it anymore and still function um in the way that I wanted to function. So all of that stuff is, and it's not like I'm saying, oh, I'm this healed person or whatever. It's like, no, I mean, it's all things that I'm still working on, still processing, still gaining understanding about how these things have impacted me. And, you know, all things play a part in who we become. But just let's say stepping back to be honest about it, to have the conversations with the luckily I'm fortunate to be able to go to therapy. So definitely um, having conversations about these different things that have impacted my life. But again, not feeling like, oh, I've just got to be this warrior. Like, no, I'm human. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Any final last words? Top two tips for the youth?
top two tips is lead with love and discover and then become the best version of yourself, whatever that may be.
Okay, I love it. And where can people find you if they want to reach out?
I'm on Instagram, johnnyjones.me. Um, yeah, I mean, you got a website, same thing, johnnyjones.me. That's my website, or, you know, it's like a blog, a lot of pictures of me on there. You know? But that's like the best way to find me between those two avenues. So.
Got
I
it.
wouldn't
Got
say
it.
Google me, but there's a lot of Johnny Jones in the world, so it may get a bit confusing. So definitely johnnyjones.me. You can't go wrong.
Got it. Love that. Love that. Love that. Well, thank you for joining us today. Before I forget, if you are going through something and you need someone to talk to, feel free to text home to 741-741. That is a national hotline. It is free. Somebody will respond and talk to you if you just need someone to talk to. Other than that, feel free to send me a message if you want to jump on the community hotline and share your personal experiences with the youth. Until next time, guys. See you later.